and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm so glad that you can keep our appointment. Now, tonight's guest needs no introduction. I'm talking about Rod Hayes. Thank you so much. I said, Rod, we have so much to talk about. I'm just going to do the short version of the intro. I don't need to, we'll do the long one going out. Listen, welcome back to Office Hours with Dr. G. It is always a pleasure, to have to converse with you, whether we are live or whether or not I, then bugged you by phone and we have one of those in-depth conversations. Tonight, we are talking about we're going to be answering some questions but we're also going to have a conversation. And because I'm the host, I get to pick the topic that I'm interested in, and then we'll kind of go into some of what the viewers might want to know from Brother Rod. And with that, because I want to, make the most of every minute that we're on, we were having a conversation that I would like to pick up on. The topic is what now? A Q&A. And in my what now, I've introduced or asked you some questions about what is actually going on, what's going on and how we should be preparing for the next. And you and I were just having a conversation before we went live, and it had to do with, it was more of a galactic level. And a lot of times, some of us don't want to have not looking to have those conversations because there's still, especially those of us who are Moors, we want to talk about getting our nationality, straight and getting this straight. Even though I know Grand Sheik has said, and you've said a lot of things that we were doing before. We don't even need to be doing them. And
right. So some of the things that we were doing. So the purpose of the original nationality card was the same as the Indian with a res card. They had a chief. Back then it was Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science.
mm-hmm.
And the structure was tribal. It was set up like a tribe where anybody in his clan cross or traverse knowingly or unknowingly into the jurisdiction of the legal fiction, he had the authority to send a grand sheik to go get his people. Right. But when somebody that was handling the paperwork signed a contract with the corporation behind his back, this is what the infighting was at the Moorish Science Temple. Right. All of the elders know about the old infighting during the time of Drew Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They know that after that, it was a big conflict with C. Kirkman Bey and Milieu. Right. Milieu was the charismatic, and C. Kirkman Bey was the military-minded mystic. Right. So the struggle for control of the temple resulted in being recontracted to nullify what Noble Drew Ali had originally did. So
now,
this is why they had to kill him.
Okay, when you say it led to being recontracted, who did the recontracting and who did
It had to be a clerk. It had to be somebody that worked in the clerk's office because they was the ones responsible for receiving the paperwork from the legal fiction to notify them of we've encountered a Moor who traversed into our jurisdiction. They would be the ones that would have to incorporate under the corporation. Noble Drew Ali he wasn't incorporated under the corporation. He was what you called an independent tribal leader. So, right. So he could have sent the Grand Sheik from wherever you at, whatever temple was nearest you. He had the jurisdiction because he was in his de jure capacity as a tribal chief on the land. So he would be able to send a Grand Sheik to go and argue the legalese because the general public doesn't know it. But the Grand Sheiks learn it. This is why Taj is able to effectively teach civics so well, because he got to tell you how to navigate the contract where it doesn't affect the Moorish national under the temple. But when they did the contract with the corporation, they recontracted with the legal fiction and gave them a superior jurisdiction. And that took the de facto into the de jure, the de jure into the reign or realm of the de facto corporation. So now the Grand Sheik's powers is limited as to interaction with the judiciary under the legal fiction.
Who did that? Was that prior to or after the death of Noble?
Well, I'm not exactly sure who the actor was that done it, but it was done from the internal highest rankings of the Moorish Saints.
So it'd be like, even if say he was still there, but someone he entrusted
right
to handle the administrative or the lawful affairs of the organization went and did something stupid, or they either did it on purpose. Whatever they did, they recontracted.
They would have had to do it on purpose, because anybody entrusted would have had to know of his legal de jure status as an organic chief on the land, protecting his clan, keeping his clan out of the domain of the legal fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you go back to the reading the early American law, you will see this cases was being represented by Chief so-and-so. And normally in those cases, he don't argue the case. He argues the jurisdiction. It was never supposed to draw us into their jurisdiction.
Okay.
Right? But they end up killing our institutions. That's how they was. That's what they used to subjugate us. They killed our institutions and said, if you want to participate in any form of what's going on the land, you have to go through our institutions, right? Mm-hmm. But then they blocked the institutions with the pale face and say, if you don't look like us, you can't get in. That's what Massa said.
So did the institutions that existed prior to us being blocked out of them were being run by Moors or by us, by the people,
right?
We ourselves.
So every tribe was responsible to develop an educational platform for their own youth.
Okay.
Right, and we generally found an effective method. We passed it and taught it across the land to other clans.
And so did
we had our systems. Right, we had our systems of education. We had family banks. We didn't believe in centralizing government with our banking, because we didn't want to mix our money with the affairs of governmental office. So the financials was always handled in-house for each family clan. This was the Billy the Kid robbing the bank shit, and Bonnie and Clyde robbing banks. They was robbing our family banks in order to force us to federalize and join into the Federal Reserve System.
So the narrative that we got in these fictionalized movies and so forth and accounts was to make it seem like it was, the Mountain Europeans funds that were being stolen. We were either nowhere in the picture sometimes, or we were the so-called slaves in the way they projected us in the narrative. When you're saying we actually they were robbing the banks of the people, the indigenous people, Aboriginal people of the land, as opposed to, Farmer Brown McGregor, somebody that came over here from somewhere else.
So we used to maintain our own family banks.
Now, was it gold and silver? What were we
primary? It's Big Mama house is black and gold. Black and gold mean coal and gold, which later gave way to oil and gold. There's plenty of oil here, but they're not supposed to trade it, because we never gave them permission to trade the minerals from under the people of the land. So now that the contracts are up, we can say we read in the Indigenous Rights Act, they said right in there that we recovered all of our mineral rights, which is retroactive. Because the reason it becomes retroactive It's because they never honored a single treaty. But the reason they never honored a single treaty was they declared people chiefs and made treaties with them under the pretenses of us.
It
So
was not us.
they knew once we discovered the fraud, the contract is up. So they don't never honor none of the treaties because they was never a lawful treaty. They had people. So it's like let's say that your son want to steal your house from under you because he think mama getting old now. I'm just gonna take the house. So he get his girlfriend to sign the paperwork
Like
as
she's
if,
me.
like she you, right? Now he go down and file the paperwork, and far as the court know, you signed off on it. That's what they did with the treaties. When you go back to the early settlers, they brought indentures over as they servants. But who were these indentures and where did they come from? You have to go back to Rome and who they fought and enslaved during the Roman wars. Because when the Spaniards got kicked out of Europe, the conquistadors, they took their servants with them. And the people that they were fighting were Huns, Mongolians, and Vedics, what we call Hindus, right? This is who they was fighting. So when they brought their servants with them, this is who they bring it. This is who they putting feathers on, enrolling them under the Dawes Act as the chiefs for the explicit purposes of signing treaties as if they were us.
Wow. Wow.
And that's why the $5 Indians look like $5 Indians, and them old ancient ones look like me and you.
Mm-mm.
Right? And we know where we from. We just had to figure out what was did on the land so that the people can recover in this Jubilee year from the frauds of the contracts. So now we tell them no more contracting with that entity, is dead now. Anybody that's trying to put a dead entity on notice, that's necromancy. It's prohibited from calling forth the dead at the close of the age. And
Wow.
you calling forth this dead thing called the United States Inc. It's dead. You signing W-2s, W-4s, and 1099s and OUIDs with a dead entity. You resurrecting a dead beast. You feeding the last breaths of life into the dragon by participating in the system when all you got to do is step back, watch it fall, step right into the new system.
Speaking of the system, we were having a conversation, and I shared with you some stuff that I had learned from the video Belly of the Beast, and I was asking you questions about that. And in that video, which was largely, I believe the ones who produced it were Christians, if you will, but it wasn't, you eat the meat, spit out the bones. They had done extensive research into the formation of the United States and then some of the things that had gone on with regard to Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, and the black magic, sex magic.
Okay, let's talk about those people that we just mentioned. Because, okay, so you got Charles.
Starting with George Washington, because they started the ritual even when Washington came in, because that, goes back.
George Washington was a fraud, an imposter.
Now
that was Albert Pike in painted images.
Now in the Capitol building, in the dome of the Capitol building, they have like the ascension, so-called, if you will, of George Washington, like he is ascending. Like you've seen other pictures with the quote unquote Jesus ascending. They got whoever was portrayed as Washington up in the dome, and he's surrounded by not angels, but sort of like paganistic and so forth. Like they're receiving him as what they were looking for was the resurrected, they said, Osiris. That's what I was going to share. So what I learned.
That's called the Osirian resurrection. It's the ancient, this is the oldest known prophecy to man.
Well, apparently, every time a president is inaugurated, they're doing a ritual in the, I think it's called the Herodome, right? You heard of the
Mhm.
Herodome. So they're in the Herodome, which is right near the, the Capitol and all that, and they're doing this ritual to resurrect. They think Osiris in whoever is being inaugurated as president. So the Washington Monument is the phallic symbol. The Capitol is the womb, and they have a tomb down underneath the Capitol, which was supposedly Washington's tomb, but they never put him in there. But it's supposed to be for the resurrected, like you said, Osiris there. So they do this ritual, hoping that, looking to see if the spirit will come in to that one being inaugurated. But apparently, the last one they really thought was it came out of a prophecy that there would be a child born in like around 1947, who a woman, and they call it the Whore of Babylon. We hear about the Whore of Babylon. They did a ritual in 46 that they said was successful, so they assumed that the child would be born in 47 sometime. So in 47, we know who came in. They said she would be influential with heads of states and presidents, and she would wield a lot of power. We know who that was. And there was a spirit called the Hilarion that they were invoking. Well, who was born in 47?
Killer.
Eight, yeah. There you go. So in 2016, they really expected to do that ritual and have this thing culminate then, but whatever happened, they put, DT in, it changed the trajectory. So with that, and I'm sharing this with, those who are listening, with that having happened like that, you had just said to me before we went live that this is the first time that Enlil lost. Would that have been part of the loss that he suffered?
Okay, so remember, George Washington brought America in. This is Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, right? That ascension that you see of George Washington is an enactment of the Christ known as Albert Pike, who gave the prophecy, which is actually the blueprint out of the Scottish Rite Lodge, in order to bring in the New World Order in under George Herbert Walker Bush, who was actually George Prescott.
Okay.
Right? Prescott's is the banking family. The Bushes are involved in intelligence, military intelligence, code talkers, and the old man had intelligence connections around the world. We call that system that he set up the deep state. Now he's drawn from Skull and Bones. It's the pirates.
Okay.
So it's a pirate's code for the takeover. So the George Washington challenge pits of feathers versus the fezzes in the game of Can You Remember Who You Was?
Okay.
Right? So when we remember who we are, we break the conjure spell. We break the conjure spell, we end the contract. We end the contract because the one who exercised the blood right and the jurisdictional father right, Y chromosome rulership, divine code of kings. You exercise that in the public domain, you end all of the fraudulent contracts. So you go past the civics of the republic and you go to the pretender to the throne and the protocols of ascending to the throne. Right? So this gives you the blueprint of the layout. So the George that you see ascending is descending as George Herbert Walker Bush on a controlled reincarnation based on date of birth.
Really? Okay.
Position of planets. They knew when he was coming back. They gave us multiple birthdays, so we won't know which George they tracking or which Albert Pike they tracking. Adam Weishaupt, Albert Pike, George Washington, Albert Pike, or Albert Pike, Albert Pike. Right? So now we got to cross all of these birthday references with the old man Bush birthday reference to see which one of these star alignments bring back a star alignment at this time.
Okay.
It might have aligned in the prior one of those dates in Pisces, but then it might come back in this incarnation on that day in Taurus. But they know who he is because they tracking the return of the energy signature. The DNA only has so many codon combinations, and the Earth only has so many grid patterns to lay out for the ley lines to know when the souls that did the major deed is returning. In this case, George Herbert Walker Bush instituted what we call the Garden Plot, right? And he activated Hillary Clinton under what's called Operation Evergreen, which was a child smuggling operation. And they went through the Clinton clan to set up the Clinton Foundation for the siphoning the children from Haiti, trying to find the incarnation of John Dessalines so they could kill him.
Who now? John? Who's that?
John Dessalines was the soldier in the Haitian Revolution that picked up where Toussaint and the Bookmen left off.
So are you saying that the roundup of all of these Haitian children that we've heard about was to find that
catch a reincarnated soul?
Wow. Now, it's funny when you said Evergreen. I was looking at something maybe a year and a half or so ago before they took a lot of these YouTubers off, the truthers off, and they showed an episode. Do you remember? It was the series, I think it was HBO, called Dexter.
Yeah.
And then he was murdering people. They showed
serial killers.
So they showed an episode of that because it had been on for years and it was off by then. But they showed an episode of them where this policy enforcement police officer found this little boy in I guess down at in the docks, and apparently it was Dexter as a child, and they showed this big shipping container, and it has Evergreen. This was before I even knew that was attached to HC that you just mentioned. They showed that Evergreen on that. They showed this policy enforcer embracing him, having rescued him, and this is apparently they were showing the life he started with as a young child before he ended up becoming a serial killer. But that way back then, they showed Evergreen and those shipping containers. Well, fast forward to about 2020. Now we're hearing about Evergreen and how it was connected, you said, to her.
Yeah. And the snowman is Bill Clinton.
Now, I never heard of the snowman.
Right. So it's tied to
snow coming in.
It's tied to the Falcon and the Snowman, but Bill Clinton was a drug smuggler under George Bush.
Okay.
Through Arkansas. His family still have a stranglehold.
We'll say allegedly, just so we won't. we'll say allegedly.
Them dirty motherfuckers dirty. I ain't alleging nothing. I'm just telling them what happened.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So they was involved in traffic. It's already been proven. This isn't public information. Anybody can go look it up. Right? Mm-hmm. So he's the adopted son of George Herbert Walker Bush. He is the snowman.
Wow.
And then you have the Falcon and the Snowman was the spy ring that ran through the offices of governor under the state police to infiltrate the clans on the land and find out where the chiefs was at.
Okay.
The goal is they trying to stop any other chiefs from doing what I'm doing now, running their goddamn mouth.
So were the chiefs, our chiefs, being back, you're talking 80s, 90s and stuff. So they were still operative, but kind of under the radar from the masses.
We ain't never went nowhere.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm not hearing or hadn't heard anything about us being, that until way up in, I was 50 plus before I did.
Now look at it like this. They been knew the whole time who we was, and they instituted COINTELPRO under J. Edgar Hoover in order to round the chiefs up so they won't never rally the troops. They won't never expose the dirty players because our people gonna look at them as criminals.
Yeah.
They won't see them as the chiefs until we regain our power structure back, which is everything that's listed in the Indigenous Rights Act. That's the "we screwed you good" note left on the table on their way out.
And everybody should go and download that and get a copy of that and study that and know what they are, what those rights are. It's right out there on the before they take it down and make it so you.
When you read it, it's a key thing that you got to be aware of.
Okay.
They cannot produce a single treaty where we ever surrendered the land. All of this is tribal land. The only thing that was a city-state independent of the tribes was DC. DC was a city-state because it was declared a crime scene under the Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction of the Queen of England.
Well, they ran aground there, right?
Yeah, so that's what Malcolm say. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us because the allegation is that we crashed our landmass into their ship.
And landmass don't move like
right.
that.
But we go through all of the war protocols of negotiating resolutions in the royal hierarchies. This sets up an interim government. Exit we the people, enter United States Inc. It's an interim government. Now, the interim government is going to be used by the pirates to try to usurp the people of the land and to confuse them as to who they are so they can't never exercise the blood right and ownership of the land as a caretaker of the land. Nobody is allowed to own earth, and we already know that. That's why the only ones who can really control what's going on the land is the ones who hold title deeds and hold her in due course. So that's why when you buy your house, you still got to pay taxes because you're not the holder in due course. So it goes back to the way that they set the structure of their system up to always trap us into contracts and keep us under a paper chain of slavery, and we're not supposed to figure it out. We ain't never supposed to figure out any of the unctum sanctums, the papal bulls. We ain't never supposed to discover the bloody oath of the papacy to kill the kings, princes, and the people of the land. We wasn't never supposed to run across the George Washington Agreement, but they got to put it all in the public domain. If they want to absolve themselves of karmic debt, we have to willingly participate. So they made us willingly participate by destroying our institutions. So we have no organizational structure of the tribes.
Mm-hmm.
They burned up city halls, which was record halls of the people that came out of a specific parish. We didn't have counties and cities. We had parishes and villages that was classified under their jurisdictional claim as a township for the purposes of instituting the protectorate right over the abandoned land using the squatter right.
Wow. So we wow. So a lot of what we had, they talk about mud floods, and I saw a movie the other day. It wasn't made here, and a lot of movies recently aren't being made here which proves that Hollywood is dead. But they were saying in this movie it was about a giant, a troll, and it turned out he was the king of the trolls, and they had years and years ago killed most of all of the trolls, and they built this palatial place overseas somewhere on top of what had been their domain. and this one that survived was coming back, but the guy was the Albion was saying it was customary, he said, for a new king to build his kingdom on top of the one that he defeats. So that's what they were going around doing. When they would, take over or do a siege and whatever, they wouldn't necessarily go into the same castle or whatever, but they would, if they had to knock it down or whatever, they would build on top of it, sort of like showing that, I'm the king of the hill. Or
right. So what they did with our castles is repurpose them as state buildings, prisons, and mental institutions, right? Because they said that because we all went to fight in the Gullah Wars, that none of the chiefs is willing to send their braves to fight that they not willing to go fight themselves. This is how whole tribes moved, right? So it's a prime example is the Pueblo. They don't know where they went. I know where they went. They went to fight the Gullah Wars.
And what happened after that?
So while we fighting the Gullah Wars in Florida, Lewis and Clark backdooring us.
Oh, having their expedition.
Right. Now they being led by Big B and Bay.
Which bank?
Big B and Bay, Benjamin Banneker.
Oh, Big Ben. Okay.
He was the translator.
Oh, so he was, okay. He took them throughout the land.
Right. But he was also the navigator. Right. So that means that when he get back and do his report, he the one have to declare the land abandoned because it's a survey for the protectorate agreement after the French sold the port of New Orleans to the English. They sold the protectorate right with it.
So did he attest to the fact that it was abandoned? Is that what it is?
Yep. So that's the contract that allowed them to expand into what's called the Louisiana Territory now. But it was under false pretense.
I said.
See, while we going to fight the wars, they figure because ain't nobody in the house right now that it's abandoned. It's not abandoned, motherfucker. We just had some business to go take care of. And we came back to all of the metropolises that they claim is new cities that's ancient, like Chicago or Detroit, right? Ontario, Canada. Those are ancient settlements that we've been had there. New York. Research the Manhattan Indians, the Chinnecocks. They was already there. When they came into Manhattan as Dutchmen. But they looked like us.
Wow.
Right? And so they blended in with the people.
So I remember the story of hearing tales about when say like ODB he realized that he was his family were native, if you will, to that territory. He knew
exactly who he was.
Do you think that's why what happened to him is because he was speaking out about who he really was?
He was a Hioka priest.
So that's why they got rid of him then.
Because he was telling in the public domain who was the ones that was taking out the contracts, using the JDL, taking out the contracts on entertainers to control the narrative in the inner city by whacking the entertainers. They call them star whackers.
It seems like we got star whackers still operating today. Because they whacking seems like every
now you have extractors operating to interrupt the whackers. So remember you brought up L. Ron Hubbard, right? And Dianetics.
Right.
So Scientology is set up, but L. Ron Hubbard used admiralty jurisdiction as a captain of a ship. Right? So everywhere he fence in becomes his embassy. And this is why all of the European celebrities turn to Scientology when they start putting the pressure on them through these 3-letter organizations that we call star whackers. Right? They was going to them for protection and to cover their assets. This is why they always talk about so-and-so put all of his money in Scientology. Tom Cruise put his money in Scientology. Yeah, because if he didn't, they was going to extort him out of it or kill him or his family. This is what they call, they sacrifice somebody. They didn't sacrifice somebody. They refused to do business and somebody got murdered. And that's the only extent of the sacrifice that it was.
So they went under Scientology as for protection from what they had gotten themselves involved in.
Right. That's the true connection between Scientology and Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam.
Yeah, because I thought before you say that, I was kind of upset when I found out a few years back the Nation of Islam was doing the Dianetics and the clearing. I'm like, why are they connected to them doing that? You remember that?
They had to show in the public domain the alliance made between the Scientologists to protect the pale-skinned people and the Nation of Islam to protect our people in Hollywood while we get the imposters out.
Okay.
But they can't tell you what they're doing. You got to figure it out.
So you saying Scientology is a good thing because it was really a
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying the function that they serving is to protect good people from being extorted and murdered.
Okay.
And they use those fenced-in communities as embassies, which gives them diplomatic immunity when they're there. That means they can't run up in there like they want to.
Okay, but then you hear the stories of, you've heard these horror stories of the ones who get in and get out about the other things that go on. So that's what, maybe that's another aspect of it, but we haven't heard a lot of good things.
Every organization has been infiltrated, including them.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about it is the horror stories reveal where they infiltrated at.
Okay.
Right? So when it come time to clean house, they gonna make their move too soon, but they gonna be follow suit with the tribes cleaning house, getting the imposters out, because they did enough dirt to identify themselves.
Wow.
It's like the purists in the Catholic Church that's been revealing to the people in the public what these dirty ass popes been doing. We wouldn't know what's going on in the church and in the priesthood if the priest that's about the right thing didn't make alliances to get the information out so we can demand it to change. Because without a demand for change, nothing changed.
Well, they've been putting a lot about what's happening, has happened in Vatican in movies lately. Last few years, I mean, and you see the diabolical, despicable stuff that they
got whistleblowers in the Vatican. Whistleblowers the whole through. They don't like the child sacrificing and the bloodletting rituals that the church do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like the priests molesting the altar boys.
Right.
Right. A prime example is Father Flegger, the Catholic priest out of Chicago. Right. He participated in a lot of the what they called as gangs, but he negotiated a lot of peace treaties among the different clans on the land over in Chicago. Right.
Yeah, I heard about him.
Right. And he's a purist. He wanted a priest that wanted to get the dirty priests out the church. But it's so corrupted that it had to be destroyed. They did so much dirt, there's no cleaning it up. They just have to just create a whole new priesthood for them to join. And this time they can teach the truth.
Yeah, because, what's the point, though, in the sense of creating a whole new priesthood when the priesthood...
The priesthood are supposed to be the ones who give what we call psychological support and spiritual instruction. What's happened is they infiltrated all of the priesthoods and turned them into political tools to control the masses. They did that under Constantine. He tell you right in his memoirs what he was thinking.
Yeah.
It wasn't a secret. So he set up this Christian church. Then the Hebrew scriptures was written hundreds of years later to give the New Testament a backstory.
Right.
Right? Then they had to come up with a way to control those people in the Middle East that didn't believe that bullshit. So they used their tribal cultures and gave them a prophet and wrote the Quran. That's the story of Alexander rewritten in the Middle East.
Most people would not accept that, just the same way they wouldn't accept the manufacture of Jesus in the sense of the way we've been taught about
Jesus is a what they call that Jesus is a marketable commodity. They use genetic memory to manipulate you into Jesus' story. Jesus is ISIS. Right? And all the words in red is not the same person talking. It's two different people. Now, remember, when the child was born, they called his name what? Emmanuel, right?
Emmanuel. Yes. God with us.
So why they stop calling them that? All of a sudden, start calling them Jesus.
I do not know.
They ain't never stopped calling them that. They just, the priesthood, the ones controlling the narrative. They don't want you to know this Jesus character is the queen of heaven and earth, and she run this motherfucker. So your genetic memory know the story. That's why we so quick to call upon the name of Jesus. But remember, it say right there in the book, many shall come to me in the last days. Say, I healed the sick, raised the dead, and cast out demons, all in your name.
Depart from me. I never know from you. I never knew you.
Why would you not know them? They calling on the name that ain't yours.
Right.
Because in another part, it say the power is in the name. But it's a Greek that they translating it from. So when they say in Jesus, the name Jesus, they saying in Greek ISIS. But because we don't do our diligence on the research side, we get tricked. Genetically and genetic memory, the ISIS story. It's encoded in all of us. Now they got to do is figure out a way to harness it and control the narrative as the ISIS story play out in our community as this commodity that they marketing called the Jesus Christ.
But it looks like a lot of well-known, higher up, leaders in the Christian church, at least around in the U.S., are just kind of I don't know whether they're bailing out, but they're changing their stance on so many things. Like as if they want to get, like as Greshik and I were talking, get ahead of karma. Like now I've sucked this thing, I've bled this thing for all I can get, and I better like get out while the getting is good, or say something that's contrary to what I've been saying for the last 25 years that has made the people subservient to this, fiction. And now you see that.
But most of the ones that go to seminary, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, they get taught that. They get taught literary, and we get taught literal. Mm-hmm. They get it as Bible as a literary work. We get it, and then they make a profession out of it, their faith. We get it in the college that I went to, we get it as literal. But when it's really taught in Yale, the seminaries, the big, those, they're literary. It's literary.
Right. So let's take like Chuck Missler, right? Mm-hmm. Chuck Missler will tell you flat out that's contrived. They made that up.
And Chuck Missler talk about flying saucer. I mean, like what we would call extraterrestrial occurrences and stuff. Which now that my eyes open, I see all.
He figured out how to be able to tell you the truth without being persecuted by the machine. Watch how he do it. He opened up with the Jesus script that they give him to give y'all. Then in the middle, he gonna bust you. That's made up. This is a contrivance. They contrived that. That came from nowhere. They basically pulled this out their ass. And then at the end, he gonna say, don't forget the Jesus script.
So he sandwiches it between the truth in between the fiction.
Right. bracket it in.
Mm-hmm.
But he flat out be like, "This is a contrivance. This is made up. We don't know where. I got 30 Piscatarian, whatever the fuck they call themselves, and all of us can't seem to find out where they got this from. So it's a contrivance. They made it up, right?"
Yeah.
Now remember, they use pale faces. They use Jimmy Swagger. They use Oral Roberts to give us the bullshit. And we had to get friendly faces. We had to get Chuck Missler, right, to tell us it's contrived, while the other ones is telling us the bullshit.
Another one.
Right.
Another
So
one tells you
we
the truth
do.
even right now is Paul Wallace.
I'm not familiar with him.
WALLIS. He's got a site on YouTube called Fifth Kind. Like, you got the fourth kind, those different kinds. It's called Fifth Kind. And he was an Anglican priest, and he's telling the truth.
Yeah. So remember, this was a war. They used a doctrine of white supremacy as the doctrine, and white supremacy is the layout and the protocols of Zion. The Zionists are the ones behind it. The protocol's blueprint is morals and dogma.
That's so, our reply.
Right. So the what to control is in the protocols. The application or the how to is in the morals and dogma. Right? So now you got to figure out how to miseducate genius people.
So they get people like Creflo and TD and all of these different ones to be under these, proliferators of this, dogma-based religion, and they pull us away from our own way of worshiping and honoring our ancestors. And
what made that work, if you go to the old AME church, the old AME church got Christian rhetoric over tribal customs and traditions. Because we used to conceal our practices, our tribal customs in the church. And this is why you got only black churches shout. They don't do that shit in no white church. Why? That's our tribal customs.
So that was like the war dances and the rain
dances. That's the tradition of the voodoo. That's where it comes from. It's a mitochondrial activation.
It's probably like, no, you said they don't do that in the quote unquote white churches, but I've seen a lot trying, but they look stupid. They really look most of the time really stupid. They look like zombies. So it's not in their DNA, in their mitochondrial DNA. They just copying what they see because they, it's supposed to be the Pentecostal, spirit is,
Well, some of them literally look like us with pale skin. But then you got the other ones look all robotic and shit. They ain't got enough for that drop of blood yet. So the trade-off for the friendly face, pale faces, pulling the secrets out like Aleister Crowley did and putting them out in the open. This is what they doing behind your back. I'm going to reenact it so that y'all can see what they doing and watch their reaction to me so you'll know which ones is in control. Same with Helena Blavatsky.
Oh, Madame Blavatsky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
See, she was on the spirit rapping team, the channeling the ancestors, using the daughters from the land as her spirit drivers. She was able, as a madam, which is a elder woman that have trainee priestesses under her, before they turned it into a brothel.
Oh, wow.
They turned it into a brothel as part of the patriarchal rape campaign. The women wasn't safe nowhere. right? So they put this reenact this shit all out in the open, making a obscene ass of himself is Crowley doing. But he telling you every single thing in his works that they doing behind our backs. What Noble Drew Ali say? Putting it out in the public domain. Going into secret societies and putting it in the public domain. He wasn't by himself. These are people that was in the contemporary time with him. You think they wasn't familiar with the works of Noble Drew Ali? He was a known healer in New York. Or herbalist.
Herbalist, yes.
Right? So a lot of them learned a lot of shit going to visit the herbalist in New York. They call him the Mad Hatter, a Manhattan Indian.
And is that why there were so many that came and had the temples? They didn't look like us, but they
right, because they was blocking us out of every institution, and anybody that set one up, they murder them and then burn the institution down, literally. So we had no way to do banking. We had no way to set up educational systems, right? All this is replayed as the civil rights movement. But they already did the civil rights movement 100 years before that. So what they doing it again for? Reenacting the cycles. So that you can see what's going on. If you know the culture of the old tribes, you will see what they're telling you in the public by showing the public mockery. Right? So when we became successful in having friendly pale faces penetrate, they started letting us into their institutions. They start sending our children to their children's educational systems with armed guard now. That's the people we sending in there, sending us the message back from the inside saying, hey, I got us a way in. Follow me. Go look at who marching with King. Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna get out of this without getting the same motherfuckers that kicked their ass out of Europe to help you. So why not use it to your advantage? They using them to block you out of the institution. Open Ellis Island up and run it over, fill this motherfucker with friendly pale faces. We want every derelict you got. But in the end of 100 years, they're going to be the ones at the top of society that's going to be able to tell us who's doing what behind the scenes. And this is where you get a Donald Trump from.
The disclosure.
Right.
The disclosure, yeah.
Right, because they have to, we got to figure out how to get this information out to the chiefs on the land so one of us can figure out when do we exercise the blood right to reclaim the land. If we don't learn from what they telling us, flipping it out of their secret by watching the movements, this is why we be losing, because we not very good at watching the long game because we ain't too good at watching the short game.
We're easily distracted, and it seems that they know that, because it seems like every week there's some new level of something that's kept capturing our attention. If it's and I'm not making mockery of it, but the Shanquella Robinson issue, before that, the Kyrie and the Kit and the Ye. So it's like every other week, there's a new something that captures our attention and takes us away from coming together. And because even those things that capture attention, there's debate. So it's not we're not unified in what we think we're seeing, or what if there's a message or what happened. So we're not working on unity. We're not working on restoration, because we don't need reparation. We need restoration. We need to be restored and made whole. We need to come together in order to do that. And it seems to me.
So this is why we tell our people to read the Indigenous Rights Act. The only way to overthrow that system is we have to go back to the system we had before they came.
True.
Which is an oral tradition. The mothers of the land they already starting, because they already sending me the messages that they reaching out to family members, discovering parts of their heritage they had never known before. And they found out what I said was right. We ain't come on no damn ships. We was already here.
True.
In a full bustling society. And they came and attacked us because they wanted what we had. But they didn't want our materials because we use earthy shit. When we get ready to do a crown, Big Mama make you one out of feathers. We don't go smelt the gold into a crown. That's not the custom of the people from the Atlant, what we call the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
Our custom is everything we did, we tried to stay as close to nature as possible. So our royal garments is trinkets to the people from Europe, but they have royal significance to the people of the land, like the topaz. It's just a rock to them. It's a sacred stone to us.
Topaz. Oh, topaz, the stone topaz.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a sacred stone for us. And a lot of the topaz copper jewelry traced back to tribes from the Southwest that was doing it for thousands of years. Those was the gifts they adorned their royalty with.
And I know in the Southwest they do a lot with turquoise.
And turquoise as well, another sacred stone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. So it's a whole it's been a whole conspiracy to destroy, like you said, our history, our reference to our whole genealogical past. They've rewritten it. They've interjected themselves in places that they were not. I even learned or heard that they had even added maybe 290 some, and I heard anywhere from 2-something to 500 some years into the timeline when they started messing with the calendars in order to find a place to interject their various empires when, they were, the Roman Empire and I guess they're looking for the revived Roman Empire. That's what they think they're ready to do.
The Roman Empire been the Catholic Church the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The Catholic Church controlled the crown of England, which was tied to the business district of Switzerland. Banking, international bankers. They used pale faces over there to hide the black nobility. The ones behind it that looked like us, that thought they got away until their ass got caught. They never nobody in a million years would have thought we'd figure out that they was using pale faces to block us out so they can claim to be us at the end. Right? We supposed to get mad, go on a bloody rampage, and kill all the pale people.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they won't stand next to us and say, kill Whitey, kill Whitey. And then when we get our shit, they gonna take it all and murder us. Because that's their oath. That's the oath of allegiance to themselves over anything that got to do with us. All these oaths are out in the open. It's not secret. I've been showing them on other shows so people will know that this is actually documented.
I've heard them talk about black nobility in other platforms, but they try to say in those platforms that when they show who's a part of this elitist group, they still don't look like us. They're saying black as not in the skin color, but black in maybe in the deed or in their, because they're doing dark, behind the scenes stuff, but they don't have.
They got the faces of the royal families called the black nobility on the family crests.
I always see them, on the cameos and so forth. You see
they try to tell us as part of the white supremacist narrative that those was the slave traders.
Why would you put
the family that was the slaves that the family owned?
So why would you pick how would you pick one slave to be on your, on your crest? Why would you do that? And that's the more prominent is that
right. So now you have to go research the art. When you go over there, you will find they got giant statues of Moors eating babies, literally. They got statues of crocodilians coming out of sewer drains, snatching babies, literally.
What's a crocodilian? Is that like a part human, part, or that's a
Yes,
crocodile?
reptile human
Reptilians,
hybrid. Right.
reptilians.
Right. So what they was telling us is why they kicked them out in they art. This is a custom that comes from the old Atlanteans, is to put the public complaint in the public domain in the artwork, so that when it's being read in future generations, they'll know why these actions was taken.
Well, that's why they said, the Bible or the scripture talks about if these don't praise me, the very rocks will cry out. And I've kind of reinterpreted it as like, if you don't tell the truth about the history, the rocks is going to be written. Anything written in stone is going to tell what you lied about.
Right. So when we talk about written in stone, we talking hieroglyphics, we talking cuneiform, but more importantly, we talking what they call stellar relief or bas relief, which is the writings on the pottery and the um, paintings on the wall that's not hieroglyphic but scenery related.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we start looking, they telling us stories. Those are the echoes from the past. Right. So once you learn how to read the signs and symbols of primordial man, and it opens up in your subconscious, you can read that stuff like a book. The hieroglyphics for certain melanated bloodlines actually look like animation when you hit what's called the alpha state, altered consciousness. You don't have to read them. They'll perform in front of you like a cartoon.
Huh. Wow. Yeah.
It's designed that way by the Egyptian priests.
So, wow. There are quite a few comments and questions. And we said we're going to do some Q&As. I clicked on a few of them, but yeah, I'm going to see. Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to see if I can. He said that. Someone said, well, you've said this so many times, but Sophia Day says, peace, Rod, who are the dirty Moors?
The ones who don't want to see the righteous Moors win. The ones who inside the temple doing everything they can to undermine the good works of the righteous Moors that's doing the work. They know who they is. The grand governing body know who all the dirty actors is. It's not a secret no more. They've done enough dirt to reveal their hand. They played too many hands too long, sat at the table. Now it's time to pay the piper. Chief Malik Angel Bay coming to clean that shit up. That's his job. Ain't got nothing to do with me. But you can tell them by their actions. Anytime they see righteous Moors moving in a positive direction, they try to tear them down. Because they didn't do it first. Jealous-hearted, envious people always preaching the enemy is some pale face while they the ones doing the dirt. They the ones that when our child get mad say, if I was you, I'd shoot that nigga in his face, and the mad child shoot that nigga in the face. Them the dirty motherfuckers we talking about. Keeping these cycles of oppression in our community by participating in these cycles in our community. They look like us, but they not us. They don't love us like we love each other. They don't see us like we see each other. Some of them see us as food. Some see us as pets. Some see us as property. Don't matter what your skin color is, they don't see you as on their level, and they superior to you in all aspects.
Thank you. Well, here's another question from Dark God. The Dark God wants to know if you've heard anything about the Anunnakis will land here on 12/8/22.
I haven't heard that specific date. But I do know they are boots on the ground.
When you say boot, you mean already or?
Yeah. Been boots on the ground for about 2 years now. They've been aiding in the continuity of government. This is why you need to read that FEMA document, and you need to know what those executive orders is. That's the chiefs reclaiming the land using FEMA. FEMA was originally designed to take everything from us. So we had to take over FEMA in order for the transitional government under the state of emergency declared by Trump for it to fall in the hands of the organic people of the land. So we had to take FEMA over first. That's why they had to execute George Herbert Walker Bush first. He had to get the fuck out the way because all of the paper deeds was traced to his fraud. Once you kill the holder of the fraud, you kill the whole fraud. Now you can step in and do something about it.
See, he figures all the way back to at least the Kennedy assassination, right?
Yeah, because he was using his family was oil tycoons on one side and bankers and intelligence on the other side. So he was using his oil company as the front as an excuse to oversee the assassination of JFK at the orders of LBJ. That's not a secret no more. Files out.
Right. But then he also, when he was he doing something with CIA? Then he was working with Obama's stepfather was working with him.
Obama was his asset. Obama, Clinton, all of the presidents up until Trump was one of his assets. Hillary was the last asset that he was trying to activate. That's activating Operation Evergreen under the garden plot of George Bush, the gardener.
Now, what is the role of why it? First of all, I want to know why he's still alive. But Kissinger, who seems like everybody has to go through him for something, like he's almost like the Pope on this side, kissing the ring and getting marching orders or getting scared shitless when they come into office. They got to go see him who tells them what they can and cannot do. Right?
Yeah. He's a political handler. That motherfucker about 200 years old.
That's what I'm saying. What's that about? How is he? Okay? Well,
he got
the juice. He gets the juice without us saying what
right. He get empowered or activated because of his political education. Right? They used him to run multiple White Houses.
Yeah.
Multiple senators and congressmen. He was their personal handler. He's part of something known as the Lazarus Group, which is a bunch of old billionaires trying to find the fountain of youth.
Okay, and live forever.
And live forever.
So he's showing that right so far he's living forever.
That motherfucker ain't gonna live forever here. I don't care if he leave, but he ain't gonna live forever here. I don't think he's human personally.
Me neither. He figures in the book that the woman wrote called Thanks for the Memories, and that she was trafficked from infancy straight up to about, I guess, adulthood. But when she was 12, in the book, she talks about how he was her handler, and at one point she was given over to Bob Hope, which is why she named the book Thanks for the Memories. But she also was sent to see JFK, and they had trained her to have photographic memory. So he pillow talked with her like he did with Marilyn. And they would get, they get her back, after flying her there at 12, she'd be able to say everything back.
Word
for word, whatever it was that he shared during their little, So
Kennedy was supposed to do what Donald Trump doing. That's why they killed him. So remember, he exposed, as he did the speech, exposing the deep state. It's called separation of freedom of the press, and is one that he did in New York, and the other one is called the separation of church and state, when the Catholic Church tried to use his Catholic religion to infiltrate the presidency, and he wouldn't go for it. Right? So he gave those two speeches, but people not listening to what he said. But he told him back then we was under an actual attack, and it encompasses all form of government, science, technology. Right? He went through it all.
Didn't Eisenhower do the same thing?
Eisenhower exit speech was the warning on the military-industrial complex,
right?
Because they had signed a treaty with some malevolent Greys, and the malevolent Greys demanded a certain amount of humans for food annually, right? Because they was already trafficking children through the Catholic Church. They agreed to sign the contract to get military armaments from the Greys in exchange for humans for food.
Wow.
But he warned about the military-industrial complex, which has since been taken over by what's called Space Command.
Not the Space Force, but...
Space Force, that's the one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Wow. So that was to combat the fact that there. Now, I also hear stories or heard reports that a lot of what we think that might be coming from outer space may be coming from inner Earth or out of the, or they might be coming up from under the sea, as opposed to, or even dimensionally coming through, as opposed to what we used to think of outer space.
The Pope used to get his orders from 8-foot tall reptile lizard bitch that lived under the Vatican.
What happened to it?
She got split with a soul splicer.
So that was his oracle.
That was who he was representing.
Now, I've seen pictures of the Vatican, and there's like this sort of reptilian, like the background.
Yeah, that's like a like a cathedral.
But it looks like a doggone reptile
overhead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff would you have? Why would you have something like that in a so-called church or so? If that was, I don't.
It don't got nothing to do with no church shit.
Well, I know
no spiritual shit. It's conjures. It's all of those things is conjures. The Pope represents the tongue of the serpent when he's speaking there.
Mm-hmm.
And the tongue of the serpent speak what they call double speak. Pale face speak with forked tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Pretending to be the one that's giving the orders, but you're giving the order from somebody else. You're just the middleman. You're speaking with forked tongue. What you're saying is not coming from you. It's being sent to you for me to get from somebody else. Who sent you?
Wow. There's just so much that is going on, and people are looking for direction, or looking the ones that are waking up. Now, the folks that are still asleep, they're not looking for nobody, but if they're in the church, they're looking for Jesus to come back, you know, and get them all out. Because I've seen so many things happen over the last 2.5 years. I would think if he was coming, that would have been a good time. If what they think, you know, what has been taught and preached was true, a lot of them have missed that, what they think would be that rapture, where we hear that what's called a rapture is probably, if it happens, is going to be more like a capture. When you talked about the Greys having been given, you know, that permission to.
But really, what the rapture is when Enki and Inanna come back to get Enlil kids, because Enlil can't come get them. He's not allowed in the Earth Zone.
Oh, really? He's been banned.
They had to send the uncle and auntie to go get their kids and get them the fuck out of here. That's what the rapture is. The real deal is them taking Enlil kids off world. because they're not coming back here no more. I don't give a fuck where they take them and what they do with them when they leave. They can eat them, boil them, fry them, fricassee them motherfuckers, tar and feather them. They can have lynch parties, whatever, pick a nigga, all that shit when they leave here. I don't care. I'm only concerned with the earthborn and the earth being reclaimed by the daughters of the earth, by the commands of the queen of heaven and earth, and the rest of them motherfuckers don't matter to me.
So when they're taken off world, are we then going to go through a period of rebuilding and just going back? Because a lot of things we've become accustomed to that we've been given, and like I always joke and say, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. The landlord giveth and the landlord taketh away. So we're looking at empty store shelves and this out of stock here and that, and these are things that we have become accustomed to becoming scarcer and scarcer. So what will be the process to get the people back in a mindset, out of a mindset of consumerism that we've been indoctrinated into, and get back to nature, to basics, to living clean, living off, clean. We do have to clean the environment because the waters are dirty and the air is polluted, the food is GMO'd and all that. So how do we recover from all that, Mama Earth, Mama Gaia, Big Mama has gone through, and still preserve ourselves?
Well, one thing we're going to definitely have to reconnect with nature. We're going to have to go back to family farms. It don't mean we won't have cities. We always had cities. Mm-hmm. But we was always going back to the farm to replenish, and then we went back to the city. We didn't have grocery stores. People forget this. Mm-hmm. The reason we had grocery stores because we didn't want the food to be able to be used as a tool of control of the people. So the people all had farms that the family would send the most difficult youth to in order for them to learn the discipline of being working on the farm, right? That's how we kept our children from going off the wrong path, right? Because we reorient them to a different lifestyle and the culture shock. By the time they adjust to the new lifestyle, then the old lifestyle doesn't have the pull and influence no more. Now they can learn something because the lifestyle wasn't compatible with their nature. That's why they was not able to fit in that lifestyle. It's not compatible to their nature. So when you go back to Big Mama house, you being observed by the aunties, most of them doulas that's trained in the child psychological development. They know where you're arrested in your development to help you get free. So we got to get back to that to tie back into nature. Family banks is going to hold the wealth. Family farms is going to feed the family. In the hands on the farm is going to be the children that need to reorient and reconnect with the land. You can tell them because they don't like sitting in those rooms. They want to go outside. When the rest of the children want to play video games, they want to go sit in the sun. The city life not for them. And to make them stay there is to make them start to rebel. And when they rebel, they come out as errant youth behavior. We done forgot who we is. Because we know how to raise our children most effectively. And we got the experts to prove it. Dr. Nathan and Julia Hare, child psychologists. Mm-hmm. Dr. Amos N. Wilson, master psychiatrist and psychologist. Wrote plenty of books on the psychological development of the Black child and awakening natural genius. Right? Look up the other Bush family, where all of the children graduated from college in their early teens. We don't like to talk about that because the original nerds, the original brainiacs came from Brainerd University, which was an indigenous school, reopened by Felicia Rashad and Debbie Allen. right? So when they talk about nerds, they calling our intelligent children nerds. You got to remember that. We the lambda, lambda, lambda. Sacrificial lamb after sacrificial lamb after sacrificial lamb. We the black sheep, the ones who don't quite fit in. They say we weird, kind of quirky, right? Something wrong with that child. But he grow up being no more than all of the adults in the family put together. But if they don't ask him, he ain't gonna tell them shit.
Right.
But if you want the truth, don't ask.
Yes, some of the most intelligent among us are probably the ones, like you said, that might be written off as having issues. They don't have an interest in school because school is, really, we know what it is. It's animal husbandry. It's training, children to follow directions and be robotic, so to speak. And I call it Board of Education, BORED, instead of because the Board of Education wasn't even about. They didn't want to create scholars, erudite scholars. They wanted to create factory workers and farm workers. They don't need no more priests or lawyers or doctors. They didn't need that out of us. So that was it. And I don't believe the agenda has changed. As a matter of fact, when we see the way things seem to be going, of late, the agenda that they are putting out for our schools and our children, exposing them to certain things. I'm not going to say things that I don't want to get, but certain different practices and making it commonplace and it's all right, and bringing certain people with certain proclivities into the school to show how it's all right to be that. All of that stuff is a part of the agenda to destroy the family, destroy our reproductive cycle by putting us together with what's the same as we are, which means there is no procreation and so forth. And they're working it into everything. There's the commercials. There's every show. You can't look at anything, and the ones that especially target say 13 and up. You can't look at a show without seeing those things portrayed, and it's sickening. That and the mixing, the swirling, is so much that we're seeing that to me that is directed to getting us to amalgamate, to be diluted, and to be delusional.
Well, the reverse psychology is the only way they was able to get us to amalgamate. Because they didn't like us and we didn't like them. We was culturally incompatible. They was sulfur-based, we was carbon-based. But they needed a drop of blood in order to have the rights of ascension. Right? So in order for them to get their drop of blood, they had to figure out a way to get us to amalgamate. Mm-hmm. So the only way you can make a guy do something is tell him what he can't do.
Okay.
You tell a guy what he can't do, that's exactly what the fuck he gonna do just to show you he can do it. Mm-hmm. Right? So then it's like a challenge. But it's reverse psychology at its finest, and it works. It just works.
Absolutely.
But once they get their one drop of blood, they not the same no more. They got soul now.
It was like once you go, what they say.
It's look. So when you go back to the Sumerian tablets, they already knew that when they fucked up and created the birth defects with the sulfur, they already knew that the only way to clean it up is one drop of Anunnaki blood or a drop of blood of the Earthborn. They can't leave because they from here, but they didn't have the rights of ascension. So they had to get a drop of blood in order for the birth defect to be overwrite the DNA. So in the midst of the deterioration of the DNA, they got to get a drop of blood in order to have the rights of ascension. This is all over esoteric material, right? But they don't never tell you what it's about.
Now, getting that drop of blood would have to be a part of their DNA, or not getting the blood, say, maybe ingesting it or doing it in a ritual, but you're talking about mixing and then having the seeds, the offspring, then begin to, have
All you got to
carried.
do is you can do the basic math, right? All of those passing slaves after 4 or 5 generations of perpetual rape, right? Well, they wasn't slaves; they was prisoners of war. First of all, the slave narrative was written to usurp the people of the land, but they was prisoners of war, and the wars. It's a 500 years to this day. So 500 years we've been in protracted warfare. One form or another, either using the conjure and spiritual warfare or flat out bombs and blood and guts warfare. All of it is being fought in this time frame. While they holding the POWs, the ones who own the plantation look like me and you. But they got these other people that run it, and they got to get their drop of blood any way they can get it. That's why it's a cathedral in Europe. In this cathedral, they was allowed to spill a certain amount of blood. As long as this cup don't overflow with y'all bloodshed, y'all can do whatever it takes to get your drop of blood. But if you overrun this cup, it's over.
So
Yeah, they've been keeping track.
Yeah, but in that case, that means when you say overrun this cup, are we talking literally or figuratively? Because
literally, they had a free reign of bloodshed. This was part of the Babylonian blood magic under Enlil.
Was that also
the shedding of the blood? It reinforces the spell of Kingu, which is an artificially induced Kali Yuga of the gods, a sleep period.
Was that also then a part of the arenas, that they erected, with the what do you call it, the gladiators and the fighting in
Coliseums?
The Coliseum.
Those blood sports. Those were fought also to shed blood on the land, but they needed the people's
was that loosh, the energy,
right?
The energy was sucked up. Yeah.
Right. So when the people in the audience smell the blood, it triggers endorphins in the brain that causes a certain pheromone to be released. And now you got thousands of people in the Coliseum smelling this blood going through this pheromone release.
But I'm told that they get sort of the same type of effect when you put people in a basketball or a football arena or soccer, when all those people get together and the adrenaline is going, and they're my team, your team, there's a release that is actually being extracted and utilized.
Well, it's definitely, anytime you get a mass of people together, there's energy that can be harnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So whether it's a football game, whether it's the Colosseums of Rome, whether it's a soccer game in Europe, it doesn't matter as long as you can get large congregations of people to participate. Now, it's different now because we don't have as many what's called blood sports. The blood sports was Enlil's way to keep us in the stupor.
Okay.
Right?
So now you many ones like MMA matches and stuff like that, but in a sense, blood's being shed in the midst of that, and those are blood sports, would you say?
Right. But the old blood sports was way bloodier.
I mean, they were using swords and ball and chain and stuff like that. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So the bloodletting rituals is to enforce the spell of sleep or amnesia.
How about all of the murders, the drive-bys and the gang wars and so forth? Was that a part?
Right. So that was to keep us divided. That was part of divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Keep us fighting each other. We won't never realize that we don't have to fight nobody. We just take our shit back. Because when you look at all that stuff at the root, poverty is the cause. Everybody is fighting for a piece of something. Right? So when you use it to your advantage, all you need is plants. right? We got the video of the brother that was an undercover agent working for the FBI infiltrating in our communities in California, where he gave you the whole rundown of the procedures, the who, when, what, where, why, and how they do it. It's in the public domain now. All of this stuff is not a secret no more. It's only a secret. It's an open secret to our people that we was being pitted against each other by people that look like us.
Wow.
See, if they make us shed each other blood, they're not responsible for it. We are. That's what they was doing. Making us shed each other blood, they absolve from the responsibility because we supposed to know better. We supposed to know who we are, right? We supposed to go back into our deepest mind states to find out where our ancestry come from, right? So if we not self-aware, we will participate in what the plant in the community is telling us to do. Now, the up-and-coming chiefs used to, it's be called knocking. They would box it out. That's how you, in your youth, that's how you establish yourself among your peers as being a superior individual with your hands. This is why we don't have no problem scrapping. That's not the issue. Why we can't come together. Sure. We can't come together because people like us keep telling, man, that nigga wear that red shit around here one more time, you ought to blow his ass away. I don't give a fuck what he wearing. I don't gotta wear that shit. Why am I want to shoot him because he come around here wearing what he want to wear? Doesn't make sense. How can I be disrespected because he wearing what he feel like wearing? That doesn't make sense. But they teach us that.
True.
To keep us bickering with each other. Now, the ears of the elders, the youth that was errant, that was able to be tricked like that, they elders now, and they telling the young guys, don't let that nigga trick you. That nigga ain't up to no good. They know who they is. They know who they is when they come. They telling the young guys, hey, stay away from dude. Dude ain't right. Right? And then when he come up, man, Mode, you told me I can't fuck with you. What? Man, fuck that nigga. Nah, man, fuck you. The youth is standing on it now. When before they would second guess it because the elders that we had was being misled by somebody too.
Right.
But now the elders came up. We born out of the civil rights struggle. We born out of that warfare. So we looking at the world like we at war even in peacetime because that's what we was gestated in. So now we come out looking at it from a military perspective. We say we could fix this real quick. Right? Let's tell these motherfuckers who they is. Treetop Pyrus. Y'all treetop walking clan that they burnt and chopped down all of y'all trees and displaced y'all from y'all land. Don't fall for that bullshit. They got y'all fighting them motherfucking Crips. Them the Crooked Man, that's Skywalker clans. Them motherfuckers used to do the Crooked Walk and make lightning at the motherfucking storm ceremonies. Don't fall for it. The enemy is turning y'all against each other. And the OGs is like, wait a minute, this is making some sense. This makes too much sense. And then they go tell the youth, hey, young G, we ain't gonna do that there. If we gonna do it, we gonna do it right. Or we ain't gonna do it at all. And now the youth is starting to get a different message than the youth did in the 70s when the leadership was still struggling to find itself.
I noticed on TikTok, so many young people are putting out information. And I made my first TikTok video maybe a week or so ago, and I just made this one little thing because I'm not a TikTok, kind of young, but just to see the knowledge that's coming out, the research that they're putting in, and the knowledge. I don't know if it's in their DNA or are they researching, but most of these are young people, millennials, and they're the history. They're telling the past. They're telling, they're disclosing stuff. They're, inquiring about things
and
that
they
many
bringing forth reference material in alarming a rate. So
absolutely.
so 8 months ago, a year ago, they was saying he don't know what he talking about. Now they can't say that because the level of the quantity of receipts is so overwhelming. They be like, damn, let's see what this nigga talking about. Where we go from here? Right? Because at first I came in, it seemed like I was hostile. Right? But when you check the references, so when you see me like on Young Elder, everything I say, I pull it up Young Elder so they can see what I'm talking about.
Right. You have receipts.
Right. So now the same people that saw me as hostile at first, he might be on to something.
Mm-hmm.
He just might be. Right. So if you know your history and you know the tribal structure, when one of the elders lay it out like Elijah Muhammad did with the nation, you know one of the people from the land set this up. Right? The
Mm-hmm.
focus, you say 95% of my work is with the MGT GCC. What do you mean by that? What is the MGT and the GCC? Muslim Girl Training General Civilization Course. What do they teach in there? They teach the women how to return back to being mothers, wives, and raising the community from the righteous perspective of the matriarchy. But we can't tell them that. So what we tell them? We can't tell them that Mother Claire was the god of the Nation of Islam, but we can show them a mirror image of her and say Master Muhammad is God, blatant contradiction in my face. So he got to be a mirror for somebody who look exactly the opposite, Mother Claire. And then when you look at Mother Claire, first thing you say, oh, Big Mama on. Now you start to see stuff from a different angle. We had to figure out a way to put pieces of the culture back into common practice so that when the chiefs start putting the land back together, they know where everybody at. So Elijah Muhammad sent Huline Mitchell or Huline X out to become Yahweh ben Yahweh because we ain't had no horse in that, no dog in that fight. Ben Ami don't work for us. He worked for Ben Ami. Right? Clarence 13X job was to go get the ones that smoke cigarettes and cigars and marijuana on the corner because them chiefs love to smoke that shit. Been doing it for lifetimes. They're not gonna stop. Because you talk about some moral code. This is my culture. I'm participating in my culture. I'm not finna stop. They know that that's the right rebellious motherfucker right there. Now, if we just get this nigga to learn something, we can brain bang on a different level. How you get him to learn? They said we ain't gonna never learn that. They said we ain't gonna never figure out how they got control of the land. We ain't gonna never figure out how to get our shit back. Might as well just let them stay there. Bullshit. This shit don't feel right, don't smell right, don't taste right. This shit ain't right. We ain't leaving it. This is what they did. They came over to replace us. Put us all to sleep, including themselves, and they got so bad they had to call for help from the same motherfuckers that we was calling. Because they know there's only one motherfucker can figure the scrambled egg out. So now the ones who don't want to see Hiram be raised have to do the same thing as the ones trying to raise Hiram. They got to put the high ram on the mountain because they can't figure out how to seize the community once they stole it. They can't figure out how to get past the blood right and the tie to the earth of the women who inherits the earth at the close of the age. They can't figure it out. I can just give them back their shit and leave them the fuck alone. That's the solution. That's why they didn't want to wake me up.
Well, when they put you down, They gave you time to really wake up.
Mm-hmm. Every mama said everything they use against you, baby, use it as a phone come up. Find a way to benefit no matter what they do to you. She told me that before I could walk. I ain't what she was talking about. I was a baby trying to figure out what the fuck is mama talking about. And she never stopped telling me my whole life. Whatever they throw at you, use it as a stepping stone. So everything they threw at me, I tried to figure out how to capitalize on. By the way, Dr. G, somebody just messaged me and said Henry Kissinger was assassinated 2 weeks ago, but I hadn't heard nothing about it. I got to
Neither
look
did
into that.
not. I didn't hear that either. But
I'm going to look into it as soon as I get off here.
yeah, I didn't see that because he's been around a long time.
I think he older than death.
He may be, but I think if he was, that was down in the news. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't hear nothing about it, but somebody just texted me and told me that. Since we've been on here.
All right. Well, we'll see. There was a question here. Did I lose it? Oh, here you go. I don't know what this is about, but maybe you can ask. What was that? Bayana Bellows' reaction to you regarding the Sweetwater ritual?
I have not personally been able to get in contact with her, but I'm pretty sure she gonna know exactly what to do. All they gotta do is the Oshun ritual that can be seen. She know what to do. She's a big mama on the island. She know what to do. So she just need to know that all of the players over here ready to come back home and receive their stateside recognition from the clans. Fuck that de facto government. The people of Haiti show the reverence for the people that liberated them from warfare, turns all the hostile forces into a relief effort for Haiti. Right? So they got bulldozers on ships waiting to go clean trash up in Haiti. They can't do nothing until the Haitian people call the Sweetwaters back, which is in effect calling the spirit of the bookman Toussaint and the priestesses back to the island to be recognized for liberation, which becomes ground zero, the epicenter of global Mardi Gras, is what I like to call it. So, you ever hear that song they sing in The Lion King, Lafayette?
Yeah.
It's a Lafayette song. Anyway, the song, every time we forget it, one of the women remember it and rewrite it at the close of the age. And it's the welcome back to Anunnaki every 3,600 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But you can't forget it because one of the sisters is going to rewrite that song. If it get forgotten, it'll be rewritten by one of the sisters when they get close.
So it was in The Lion King, you say?
It's a popular song. It's a popular song from Africa.
Oh, okay.
I call it the Alafia song.
Oh, okay, because we used to sing a song. I used to go to an African, sort of an African church ministry, and they sang a song called Fanga Alafia Ashe.
That's it.
That one.
Yeah,
Fanga Alafia Ashe.
Oh yeah. In the native tongue, you saying you welcoming back the ancestors.
Yeah, we sang that. Yeah,
that's what that is.
Oh, okay.
When they get ready to come back, if let's say, for instance, we forget that song tomorrow, and they're not coming back for another 3,600 years. In 3,500 years or closer to 3,600, somebody remember to write that song. It's that important in the collective consciousness. That's what they sing to them. They used to sing it in the land of the Absu because they used to send delegations to bring gifts to Enki and Inanna in South Africa in the land of the Zulu. The Zulu was the military or the security for Enki. That was his soldiers, and he left them in charge of being the protectorate of the sign. The Watusi was the protectorates left over what's called Pygmy. So they left the big people to protect the little people. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are your gnomes and fairies of fable.
Really?
They magical little motherfuckers if you can get them to do anything for you. Serious. They literally, if they agree and they in harmony, whatever you ask them for, they can manifest it in your life in shorter than most people on the planet. That's why they got the legend of the leprechaun. Those are Orisha priests that was pygmies.
Really? Okay.
That was settled in. That's who St. Patrick was murdered.
Drove out the snakes. They call
Right, because the men wore a cobra band around their head. The women wore cobra bands on their arms. That's who they was running out of Ireland.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, the word Irish is Orisha. It's just in English instead of the
Irish Orisha. Oh, y'all, did y'all get that? Wow.
Yeah, the English language is a North African tongue. They originally only had like 300 or 400 words in the original language.
Here's a question. How do we know who the Anunnaki are?
Oh, you can't miss these big fine motherfuckers, male or female. They all big as hell and gorgeous. It look like their skin is either chocolate or gold. Like
when
you can
say they're
literally
already, you said they're boots on the ground. So are they among us, looking like us, or
the
are
ones that look like us are hybrids. They Anunnaki human hybrids.
So they're the ones that they've been taking when they've taken the folks and they've been taking eggs and sperm and doing stuff.
They came down here and had married Earth women.
Oh, those kinds.
You distinguish them by the ones that's born to Earth women called the Earthborn. That's why you would keep hearing me saying the Earth belonged to the Earthborn, because the women of the Earth is the only way you can sink to the Earth. You don't get the mitochondrial from an Earthborn woman. You can't stay here when the energy signature change. You're gonna either die, spontaneous combust, or you're gonna shrivel up. It's gonna turn off your brain and your heart automatic. Just turn it off.
Okay. Wow. So that is. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Y'all, when y'all put a question in, please try not to put it in 50 times the same one. That is so annoying to me because I'm going through, but when I see the same question, like somebody just copies paste. Please don't do that. Please. If it's meant for me to read it, I will. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Let me see. So someone was asking about where they could find a speed reading class for children.
There's a program that's beautiful for children called IQ.
IQ, okay.
EYEQ. Speed reading program.
Yeah. Did you get that? Whoever's asking me the question, I know I saw it a couple of times coming through here.
Yeah, so they got the original speed reading class was the Evelyn Woods course. That's more for adults.
Okay. Say it again. It's called the what?
IQ, EYEQ speed reading program.
Oh,
it's excellent for kids.
EYE, like the I and a capital and a Q.
Speed
reading.
Yeah.
There you go.
See, they can put that on the computer and use it as a game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let me see if there's anything. Priesthood of Melchizedek. Well, that's not a question. They mentioned about the priesthood of Melchizedek.
Somebody asked who Reverend Ike was. Reverend Ike was a Choctaw chief in the church telling you the truth. And
Yeah,
we
I
thought
used
he
to
was
follow
crazy.
him. I still follow him. I still follow his tapes and stuff that his son puts out. But he had it. He had it on right.
Yeah, he was trying to teach the law of manifestation before it was popular.
He sure did. And I manifested some stuff back then. You know, he used to say, "You if you want your pie in the sky by and by, you can wait, or otherwise you can do this now." You know.
Right, but see, none of what he told you was based on you doing anything but making the plan, visualizing the plan, and then doing everything that you can control in the plan. The more that's called applying your will to the plan that you wrote. You took
Mm-hmm.
it out of the 3D already when you wrote it down. I mean, out of the 4D, and you wrote it down in 2D. If you start following the steps, it'll manifest in 3D faster. But if you sit there and wait on it, it might not get here because you're not doing your due diligence. Your part is everything that you can think of to do it. And then when you can't figure out what to do next, don't do nothing. Just take off on its own from there. That's when Big Mama go to work for you.
Yeah, I've written things down in a list and put them in a book with an electronic page, and put it away, and put time limits that when I want to end. Maybe half of those things. I mean, some of the things what I put down seemingly were impossible. Like I wanted to be the director of the department that I worked for. I'd been there for years, but the director, the current director at the time, was like maybe about 40 years old. So it wasn't like he was bound to retire or anything like that. And 6 or 7 months into me having put that in there, he decides to leave the job and do something else, which didn't make sense, because he was a director. And then the current mayor appointed, it was the last 6 months of the current mayor's administration. So the current mayor appointed me as the interim director, or for the last 6 months of his administration. And then when a new mayor came in, I sat there for about 3 more months before they realized I was the only department that they had not appointed a director, and I was acting. And then he walks in my office one day and says, "Can you do this job?" And I've been doing it now for 9 months. And then he appointed me as the director of the department, which I ended up being for 4.5 years until he lost in the next election.
There's a native practice that the Big Mamas used to do. She used to write a note and put it in your shoe. Right. So it's just shoe magic. And the principle is once Big Mama agreed to it and she write the note for you, it's your permission slip to walk into this in your life. And she put it in your shoe. So every time you step on the ground, you're giving Mama Earth the knock, boom. And she directs your feet to the path that Big Mama sent you on.
Y'all hear that?
Yeah. That's you can look it up. You can look up shoe magic, notes in the shoe magic. It's a voodoo practice.
Wow.
But it was to help you walk into your best life.
And so there's a lot of us that need to do that.
Right. So what we do now is we fall upon desperation and try to use the conjure to manifest wealth. It don't work like that. You manifest the feeling of being wealthy, and then the conjure put you in the position for the wealth to come to you. Right? You don't just do the conjure and then the wealth come. The whole point of doing the conjure, doing what they call a ritual, is to put yourself in the feeling of receiving. How would you feel if you had $1 trillion? What would you feel like?
Right.
Right? And the more descriptive you are of the feeling, the faster you can manifest it. Right? But the bigger the manifestation, the longer it takes due to the magnitude of the demand. So you got more forces in the universe to align, the bigger the thing is. Right? So the easiest way to have your best life is just think about, say, if I was living my best life, I would be, and finish the sentence. What would you be doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to, that's when you start drawing it from the 4D putting it under 2D when you write it down. And then when you walk your path, you walking it and walking into what you create. See, the manifestation on the earth now has a delay. And this is what they was capitalizing on to interfere with our manifestation. They created impatience in us. So now when a big thing like closing all of these conjures is taking place, we all in a hurry for it to be done. And Big Mama sitting there laughing, talking about, baby, it just take how long it take. Some things take longer than others. And all you can do is say, yes, ma'am, because in the end, she's going to be right. It's going to take how long it's going to take. And when it's done, it's going to be done. But it's going to be done right this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, there's just, I'm hoping and looking forward to some of the things that, you know, the war that we're going to do, the sisters, that we're going to be looking forward to those kinds of things and more to be able to do, you know, once we actually formulate everything and start having the formal meetings. And I'm sure there are things that the brothers could and should be doing, because I know you talk a lot about Big Mama, but what about you all? What about, are y'all just going to sit and wait while we do that? Or is there a cooperative? You know?
So the women have to come together organically. That's the call of the matriarchs. Y'all naturally going to be more and more drawn to build onto the sisterhood until y'all got a global network.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's going to start off patchy because y'all haven't done it in so long. Y'all reclaiming back the earth. But in the meantime, what we going to be doing is getting the imposters out.
Okay.
That's the part I want to participate in. But they want me to keep brain banging, keep informing the people of the imminent change of the guard. From the patriarchal rogues back to the matriarchs. Restoring Big Mama House to its proper order. It's not personal, it's just family business. I take that personal.
What do you say to people who are like, you said that we're impatient, so I kind of pretty know what you might say to this, but I saw a comment, I'm not gonna pull it up, but I did see a comment that said something like, Rod is saying the same thing he's been saying over and over, just like Todd says, sorry to say. What do you say to people who always want something new when the old hasn't even been dealt with?
They ain't talking to me. Look, process is always negated in fast food culture. That's why they want to do everything in the microwave, because don't nobody want to stand at the counter and chop up the vegetables. Right? Just because I'm at the counter chopping the vegetables, I'm cooking from scratch. It's going to take me a little longer than it do for you to pop it out the box.
Absolutely.
Right? So if they impatient, well, they know what they need to work on. If they do their self-work, they won't have to worry about what kind of work I'm doing.
That's true, because everybody has an assignment.
Yeah.
You know, one way or another, and you've got to find your purpose.
A lot of people think their assignment is to tend to everybody else's assignment.
That's
but
true.
I don't know nobody who don't got their own business that they need to take care of before they worry about somebody else's.
Yeah.
Right. The only reason why I'm even on any of this is because Big Mama said they need to go and get the word out. So I'm getting the word out.
And you've been doing an excellent job at doing that. I don't even know when you get a chance to to rest, because it seems like you putting out videos and having interviews on the regular. But I do appreciate the fact that you've given me access to you to contact you and get you on the show the way I do. And to me, this has been this particular interview, if you will, or dialogue, because I think we've been dialoguing and you've been teaching us, has been even more. I've heard new stuff. I don't know what they're talking about, but I haven't looked at all your other interviews, not unless they follow you on every channel. And sometimes you might have some overlap if you're kind of talking about the same thing. But for me, a lot of what you shared tonight, it's been fresh. It's fresh to my ears. You know what I mean? And just as you're speaking, y'all, I apologize. I've been interrupting because I get I get email or text messages from someone. You need to stop interrupting your guests. But an interview, you have to ask questions and say something. You don't just sit there and introduce the person and then not say anything, y'all. But it's just that I like the fact that you can you're just open and you are like a catalog of knowledge, and it's almost there's not many subjects that you get stumped on that you don't have a recall or a knowledge of. And somebody else said this to me. They said, we love the way when you speak, you don't speak like you're not up here trying to find something to say to folks to make it seem like it flows out of you like water. Just that's because that's what's in you. And like I said, people, you can love him or you can hate him, but he is who he is. And unashamedly, you stand 10 toes down on what you say. And that's why myself and a lot of other mamas all around the globe that get a chance, mostly mamas, they get them. They love what you're saying. It resonates.
Right. My mama told me the most important thing before you start a fight, make sure you're right.
Makes sense.
So that gave me the lesson that if you stand in the position of right and then you tell them the truth, people gonna want to hear what you talking about sooner or later. Right? My mama say shout it from the mountaintops. That's what she used to always tell me. I'm like, I don't care if these motherfuckers don't believe me. But she said, no, I need you to shout it from the mountaintops. Tell them where you at. Mountaintops mean from every form of government.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we looking at it, we talking about mountaintops as the top of the pyramid. So all seeing eye. Mm-hmm. The one who can see the furthest is the highest on the peak. So the one who can see the furthest is responsible for the next 7 generations, whether they like it or not. Mom gave you these eyes, you see with them, you responsible. And you can't get no stay at home note. Ain't no I got a headache note. What the fuck? That don't apply. Right? So while I was going about the 3D charade of a life, I was plotting my path to my best life, which required me to take as many of my people with me as is willing to go. Stand in the position to right, tell the truth repeatedly. Some of them gonna call you crazy. They gonna call you weird, strange, unorthodox. Some gonna be where this motherfucker come from, who he think he is. But just keep saying the same thing, telling the truth, standing in the position to right, and sooner or later they're gonna have to line up to the truth. It's only one motherfucking line. That line is the truth. So if you ain't on that line, you really are destined for failure. And that's why it's called Sirata Mustaqim. It's a straight and narrow way.
I'm going to let this be, I guess, the last question from Rod Baskin. He says to ask you if you would elaborate more on the English language and how it plays a role in real knowledge.
So original English was only like 300-400 words, and it was used because of the effectiveness of comprehension and using it at that time. Over time, it's been infused with words from all over the world, from Greek language, Latin, from Sanskrit, from Hebrew, from Arabic. All of these have contributed to building a modern English language, right? The English language becomes deceptive because of what's called position of the noun and verb relation, right? So in Spanish, the sentence structure is different than in English. The same as in Hebrew is different than English. The same as in Greek is more similar in structure than Hebrew or Arab or Spanish. But Latin is a different language. Now, Latin was penned after Greek. Latin was penned because the Moors who settled Rome, the Etruscans, they wrote Latin because in order to have your own nation, you need your own script. Now remember, they trying to harness the dead. The dead is the straw man, your doppelganger. So that's why they had to kill the Latin language. So the Latin language is the necromancy language to call forth the dead part of you, which is your ignorance, your lower self. That's why Noble Drew Ali say you are truth and falsehood strangely mixed, right? Because the true identity of who you are is concealed in the false identity of who you perceive to be.
It makes a lot of sense.
Right. So now once you find the truth in the falsehood and you separate the mix, you can clearly see yourself for who you are. Now you can go teach your people. You qualify.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff, y'all. And let me just say, woo. I just want to make you see get here towards the end. I wanted to say, okay, y'all be respectful in my chat, okay? I wanted to say thank you. You know, I want to take this moment out to say thank you to a few people. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So while we got 1,300 and some odd folks here listening. Don't click off because he's gonna say something else. But I want to say thank you so that y'all be on here to hear the thank you. So rather than have you say something else, but I want to interject this thank you while folks are still there or still here. Anyway, this weekend this week, I put out a request for support for a new platform that we are going to launch here, the House of Reawakening Minds, and I wanted to say thank you to those who have supported us through this. Here you go. Thank you for your generous donations. We are so thankful for your support. And that's the House of Reawakening Minds. I just, I made a little thank you for that. We are going to move forward. We have moved forward. I'm sorry, not going to. With this, obtaining this platform, just got to kind of learn it. Still, if you still want to donate, because we got a lot of things that we're trying to do. And your donations will be greatly received if you give them. But if not, I do want you to know we had asked for 5 notes. Some of y'all gave a lot more than that, and it was so many of you that gave. There's no way that I can put all of those names out. I mean, go so you know who you are, and I want to say thank you, and thank you again from the bottom of my heart, because it lets me know, one, how you feel about this platform, and two, the sincerity, that you have, or the not even want to say sincerity, the belief that you have, or the faith you have in the sincerity of what we offer here. Because a lot of times people can be BSing the people, and it's not what it is. So I have secured the new platform. Now we are going to have to figure out how to use it correctly, and we're going to be doing some private things, y'all. So still, if you want to support our efforts, because we have some other things going on, which I want to say another thank you this weekend. And I have one young lady's name appellation that's not here, and it's only because she was not in the original group, and I didn't get a chance to get her name to put it here, but she was from Pennsylvania who came down this weekend. We have volunteers, Brother Rod, from as far away as California. My volunteer coordinator is Sister Francesca Turner, but these folks here, and the sister whose appellation is not here, I'm thanking her, Francesca Turner, Roz Jabe, Joel David Thompson L, Anna, we call him Brother Zero. That's his nickname. Sister Beverly L, Sabura Lawrence, Tunica L Bay, Michael Wesley Lawrence, Tunica L Bay. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. They came out this weekend part 2 of our volunteer, what we're doing to remodel the House of Reawakening Minds. Phenomenal work. Built we got a Brother Ross and Brother Zero put in a whole custom shower. There was painting done, plastering done, lighting done this weekend. And all of their efforts were volunteer. We have to, purchase, of course, materials and supplies, but everybody just, we're talking professionals, electricians and carpenters and plumbers and all this, and everybody worked from Friday till this afternoon at about 2:30. And I want to say thank you to them. So we have some more work that, of course, that we need to get done. So any support that we get over and above what it took to pay for that platform for the year, we're putting it into getting this work done, because in February 14th to be exact, by February, we want to be able to have an event, our first event at the House of Reawakening Mind, and honor our Grand Sheik on his 78th solar return. So somewhere around that 14th of February, but whatever weekend gets closer to that, we are going to have something to honor him. And we're trying to get everything done there. So I just want to thank you guys. I know y'all planning to come back in January to finish the work that has to be done. And some are even going to be back next week and the next 2 weeks. But, that takes a lot, flying in, and paying for, paying at least for, rental cars and getting there and everything. And we've all just kind of camped in, not me, but they've camped in the building. I didn't, because, I don't domicile far from there. So I didn't have to, but just the fact that they came and they have given excellent service, I wanted to thank them. And even the first group, they were in the first group in August, but then there were some others. I just don't have like Sister Inez Isis L, who's not frequently here on the in the live. She was a volunteer in the first group. She's just, she worked, her butt off just like everybody else in August. So, and there's some others. So I will get the other names, but this weekend they worked and they produced. And I just want to say thank you, because a lot of times we don't appreciate people for what they could be doing somewhere else, or they could be saying, yeah, I'll do it, but you're going to have to pay me. They didn't do that. They have been volunteering ever since we started this project in August. So I wanted y'all to know that, how much I appreciate each and every one of you that gave, whether you gave $1 or whether you gave $333 and everything in between. Thank you. And soon we will be having our first, I don't know who's going to have one there, but Rod, you always say what you want to say, but we'll be able to say even more on this other platform other than that. So, wow. That's what I wanted to say, Rod. What you think about that?
Hey, I was listening to you. That's tribal in nature. We like, let's say, for instance, it's a tribe that does carpentry, another tribe does plumbing. We send a call out and they send somebody. Do you ever see the Amish build a house?
They like in a day they do barn raisings, and
the whole community is involved in the project from start to finish. That's why they can do it in a day.
Right.
Because everybody got a part of the day that they doing a specific part of the job. It's well organized, but they learned that from the natives.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and I thought about it. I've been looking around and I see businesses and so forth. And I think about most of the folks that make up the businesses. A lot of them is our labor. Somebody asked our Cash App. I'm running at the bottom of the screen. You can see Cash App and PayPal, or you could just send a text if you want to, the number 302-345-0500, and I'll send you a link. But here it is running across the bottom if you still want to support. But I am so happy with, and even other things. And now I'm kind of switching because I want them that are on here to know. We're looking. I found out amongst the ones that were here because I wanted somebody to help with broadcast stuff, because we want to put a studio. This is my home right here, right? So we wanted to put a studio so we can do interviews down at the House of Reawakening Minds and have it, set up appropriately. Like even if we wanted to have two people sitting on a couch, you know how you see different settings or around a table. And one of the brothers, Brother Zero, I didn't know that that's what he does, some video production. I thought he just did the construction part of it, but he does that. I'm looking for someone who can do database, especially a sister for the war, the Women Are Ready. Somebody knows how to develop a database so that we sisters can begin to, that I have over 250 sisters so far who have signed up for the war and have their email addresses and who they are, but we don't know who they are. Like, what do I bring to the table? What skill? How do we use that to network with each other? Or how do we use it to push, our community further because we have all these different skills? So
you need a website.
We need a website. And we don't need somebody to say, I'll do a website for 3,000 notes. I mean, yeah, maybe you do have to get compensated, for the what do you call it, the platform, and you have to pay for the thing.
Well, you can get. They got some youth. The youth know how to use these web maker, these web page apps, and they can do it for a little or nothing.
We have no website. We just have YouTube as a way and Facebook, and we need another way to reach the people, because with this new platform, we can even embed our videos onto a website if we have one. So we need some volunteers that, these women and men are doing their, physical labor, painting, carpentry, and electric work, and, building, whatever spaces. But we also need some technical stuff. You know what I mean? We need somebody that, people that know sound, people that know production, people that know how to, like I said, develop a database and automate it so that we can capture information and put it up in something, so that if you're looking for, if you're looking for somebody to do websites, we know all the people who can do websites, and all the people who are herbalists, and all of us who are, whatever it is we do, we want to put that in a database so that we can begin to have a connection, So, and like I said, this new platform will accommodate 10,000 viewers. And that for me I think is just amazing. I don't know when we'll get to that, but just the fact that we can, y'all, that's what I'm looking forward to. So anyway, connect with via Zoom, Gmail. They hit it off on website. I'm doing website for free. I don't know. Anyone who has any information about anything, you can either email, text me at 302-345-0500. You can email me at houseofreawakeningminds@gmail.com. And if somebody wants to volunteer to create a website on one of those templates, that's fine. But Dr. G's brain, look, Rod, I just started taking these neuron rebuilding vitamins, because I've been trying to pull stuff out of. After a while, you can't find information. You are a walking encyclopedia. Me, my brain is like, you know what? You're 67. So, some of your neurons are on fire. And so I'm trying to get it back together. So for me, the technical stuff, the best technical stuff I can do is to put this show together and make the banner. But when it comes to making websites and stuff like that,
I guarantee you, Dr. G, that it's a couple hundred people watching right now. And they got a grandmama or auntie in the South that's in their 90s. They're sharper than me.
I'm sure, and I know it's a lot that are sharper than me. And I talked to a few of them, and they're sharp. Yeah, and I appreciate them.
So age is not a restriction on the ability to have a sharp mind. It's the lifestyle you live that interferes with your natural progression.
Right.
The foods you eat, all those things become important. And once you understand how the foods work, it really don't matter what you eat, because you will know how to utilize the energy transfer the food to its greatest advantage, no matter what you eat.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, that's all. D Noble says, thank you. So if somebody creates a website for Dr. G, they said they'll pay for it. Thank you so much. You so thank you so much. So please reach out to me 302-345-0500. Just not tonight because it's late. But just not tonight. You can call me anytime during the day. I'm retired. But yeah, I'm trying to get better because Brother Joel, who was here this weekend, every time I got ready to reach for a peppermint, he said, Dr. G, don't eat that candy. And I be honest with you, I bought one of those big bags of the round peppermints that are soft. I mean, it was like a 2-pound bag of candy. And I said, I'm done. Because I don't really need it. And even when you think you have good sense, you don't have good sense sometimes about things that you have to detox, as somebody said, yourself from. And I know that I got to detox from sugar. The greatest poison that there is, I got to detox.
Well, it's not the sugar; it's the bleaching agent in the sugar.
Well,
85% of your glucose is used in the brain.
Is it? So you saying a lot of sugar, it works for the brain?
Well,
No,
yeah, but it's the bleaching agent that's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cause of diabetes because it hampers the pancreas, right? So the control of the sugar becomes important to maintain blood sugar levels.
Right.
But it's not the sugar, because if your pancreas is working right, you're gonna use all of the sugars in your brain.
True.
Insulin is gonna transfer it to the energy. Most of your energy is used in the brain.
I forgot to put this up. He didn't ask me to do this, y'all, but y'all got a lot out of this. I know you did, like I did. And this is Uncle Rod, as they call it. This is Uncle Rod's Cash App. If you all want to, thank him, then for all the work and sacrifice he's doing. Cash.me/$ SIKAPE. Tell us what Sick Ape stands for, because you told me.
Soldiers in Illuminati are present everywhere.
You hear that? Soldiers in Illuminati are present everywhere. So that's what Sick Ape stands for, just so you'll know. This has been awesome. I'm not going to ask you if you'll come back, because I know you'll be back. I know you'll be back on. And I'm thanking again each and every one of you who has supported what we're doing here. We realize that we're the little pebble going into the making the ripple that is going out, into all the to all the world, because we are global. When we come on, when you come on, you're reaching the world. So you throw a pebble out and the ripple from it reverberates, and we appreciate it. Lastly, I just want to say, I don't have information for y'all who might be inquiring as to when there will be another demonstration on behalf of Brother Lamont Maricel, Consul General. I know there was, a little, some were able. The weather was horrible today, and then when they got there, apparently whoever they needed to go, they had pushed it to some other jurisdiction of court or something. So stay tuned. I'm hoping to be back on next Tuesday, and or even if I get information before next Tuesday and they decide they're going to do it on Tuesday again, I will go live just to give the information for those who want to continue to support our not only Brother Lamont, but the other, I think it's 3 brothers that have been kidnapped too. So we want the bodies of our nationals, and I think that's it. Hey, let me just anything else you want to say, Rod?
I think we just said enough for today, Dr. G.
Oh, here's somebody watching from Australia. Hey there, Australia. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. Okay, listen, y'all. We going, and hopefully, because I've started doing like twice a month instead of every Tuesday, because it gets difficult for me to get guests all the time, and so I don't like belly aching over whether or not I'm going to have a guest or whatever. So I figured if I do it twice a month, I can always have somebody. But this time I did last week and this week, and I'm hoping that I can get this sister to be on for next week that I know you all will love. You probably already watch her on her channel. Shout out, oh gosh, to Dr. Kia Pruitt if she's still on. I did see that she was in the chat.
Oh, that's my girl.
I love me to Dr. Kia. Yes. So shout out to her. And, y'all reach out if you want to. And you can follow Brother Rod, because we want to get in touch with you if you on Facebook on Rod Hayes. And if you, I don't know if he has any friend space, you might have to just follow him. And do you have any space for friends?
I don't know. I'm at the limit.
Yeah, but you can still
every couple of days they knock a couple people off, and I just add some more people. So
okay.
But, yeah. So the Instagram page is The Sick Ape, spelled the same.
So just THE, not the $, but THESIKAPE on Instagram. So follow him, and you can also, I think they can message you there, right?
Yeah, message. I got Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger. If I'm not doing nothing, take calls or video calls on there sometimes. Okay. If I'm tied up and somebody called me, I just don't answer.
Okay. Well, some last question my sis asked, what does a Illuminati mean? Sounds like Illuminati, but what does it mean?
Because we killing that Illuminati bullshit that they was trying to run on our people. Okay. That they was illuminated, and we killing that bullshit. Okay. We show the people that we the ones. Mm-hmm. The ones they call nappy head niggas, colored folks, black, that mistreated us. We the ones, and we here to kill that bullshit once and for all, and show y'all that the God mind is superior to their AI, to their corporate boardrooms, or their political agendas.
With that, we didn't. I know we're supposed to see. I told you they shouldn't have gotten off like 20 people. Listen, AI. What did you think about this institution of these doggone AI cops, these robo cops that they in Seattle or somewhere starting that they're gonna have these AI cops out there? Because that seems like they could be programmed to just, oops, it's a machine error.
They already got AI cops. They look like humans. They can't control killing you. They program. They just call it MK Ultra instead of calling it what they is. They drones, assassin drones. They activate them when they need to. Everything is designed to put us in a state of fear. They just want us to give a fear response to that shit. But when we get back in control, we're not doing that dumb shit. No, the women gonna be like, nope, that don't even make no sense.
That does not compute.
They could accidentally shoot a baby, and if it automatically can harm a child, it automatically can't be part of the system. Mm-hmm. And so that's just some scare tactics. They do a lot of stuff to keep us in fear, because as long as you're in fear, you won't think, you react. Mm-hmm. You acting off of instinct. And if you can break past the fear barrier, everything that empowers you is protected by a warning of fear. Oh, you're going to go to hell. Oh, you're going to burn forever. Oh, it's the devil over there. Oh, the white man did it. Fuck all that shit. If you got the God gene in you, that shit don't mean nothing to you. All that shit in me. So if it's all in me, I can control it out here. I just got to learn how to make the two work synergistically.
Well, you heard it, folks. All right. Until next time. Thank you so much for being on the platform.
Thanks for having me, Dr. G. I appreciate it.
Love you. And I'm just glad that, I can call you my brother, my friend. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Dr. G.
All right. Peace. Dr. G. Really?
she? Yeah, that's me. Dr. G. Really? Who's 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 she?